Welcome back to the Creative Process Podcast with myself, Jared Klein, episode 83 today. I know we have had a little bit of a hiatus with me being in El Paso last week, but thank you for coming out today to episode 83. Obviously, by the title, you already know who we have on, and by however you wanted to click on this, you saw who was going to be on today, Flynn. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come on to the podcast. It's kind of a weird time to record one. It's like 5 p.m. in the afternoon, on a Friday. That's kind of a weird time to record it. But
that's how we do it, man.
Yeah. But thank you for taking the time today and jumping on. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's the start of the weekend, so why not just jump it off the right way, right?
Right, for sure. I guess that's a way of looking at it, right? Yeah, that's. Yeah. I usually record at on a Monday or a Tuesday at 7 to 9 p.m. somewhere in there, Yeah. And I don't know. This may have been one of the times that worked. I'd have to look back in our text thread, but yeah, this is very unorthodox for me to record right now, but I kind of like it because it's still light outside. And it feels good. Usually it's dark and gloomy. And
you got some good golden hour coming through the window there. So it's nice.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. So the camera that I use for recording, it's right here. The other camera is up here just for what you see. So in my normal camera, it's nice and daylighty. This color balance on this freaking webcam that I use is the worst for this. So it may look orange, but it's actually it looks like it's midday right now outside. So
yeah.
Cool. But yeah, man, again, thank you for coming on. But why don't you introduce yourself to the people that don't know who you are? I'd say this a lot, but you can go as broad as you want or as specific as you want, all the way back to when you were in kindergarten if you really want to. So go for it. Introduce yourself. Let the people know who Flynn Bluett is.
Yeah, I think we just start at birth. That'd probably be best. No, but I'm Flynn. I'm a graphic designer. If you follow me, you probably know me most from working with the Hawks and some freelance stuff. But basically, give you an origin story. I was kind of dead set on basketball through life. That was kind of my thing, real dedicated to it. And then, as most people do after college, they realize it has to stop. So I kind of realized early and created a second passion and third passion in designing and making music too. So I'm sure we'll touch on all that stuff, but yeah, pretty much just a basketball based designer for the most part. Yeah. That's an easy way of saying it.
With Rutgers, was that your primary thing? I didn't do too much digging. I saw you worked with Rutgers. Was that you worked with their basketball program?
So I worked with Rutgers for 3 years. I actually moved. I should have started with this. I'm from Florida, Clearwater area. But I kind of took a chance on that, getting into the sports industry. I'd been at an agency for 4 or 5 years. I just wanted to dial into sports. So Andrew Coolahane from Rutgers offered me the job, and I just flew up there mid-winter, Florida boy in the snow. Took it, just said, you know what, whatever happens, happens. It was a great job. Andrew was dope. Everyone I met, Thomas Northcutt, we've done a lot of stuff together. But I met them up there. I hated New Jersey, I'll be honest. I couldn't do it. So COVID broke out. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we both moved down here to Florida during that. Worked for Rutgers a little bit longer. But I was with all their sports, not just sports specific stuff, but I think 24 sports or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, and then I just kind of jumped into the freelance game and then just got brought on by the Hawks. So that's where we are now.
Right. Yeah, I was curious to know your story a little bit and talk about, your collegiate experience with Rutgers and now kind of going into your experience with Atlanta. How does that, one, what are your responsibilities right now working for Atlanta?
Yeah, it's kind of broad, but more so on the social space,
Okay.
social design. Um, everything from like building out toolkits to, game day stuff.
Hmm.
Not like every game day. Those people are crazy. I don't know how they do that. But we got a handful of great designers. So like I said, I was brought on as a freelancer when they kind of made that crazy run to the playoffs and the conference finals. They just kind of were scrambling, and then it just sort of like solidified into a more permanent role.
Hmm.
So just all design aspects.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so now like I'm curious about the translation. Well, if there is a translation, but like the comparison between your experience in collegiate athletics to now in professional athletics. Is there are there a lot of things that kind of go across that line that are consistent, or is there more different than consistency?
Honestly, I think it's different. Um, it's kind of like less projects, more focus on each. Because college, you're just like grinding it out. Honestly, most college designers will tell you, like everyone kind of knows, you got to really get after it, especially when you got like multiple sports.
That's the
I think
culture,
at
isn't it?
Rutgers, yeah, it's crazy. At Rutgers, we were like doing 10 sports each, and you're dealing with coaches. Like I don't deal with coaches now. I deal with the head designers, the creative directors, and then like everything's got to touch marketing and all these
Mm,
different departments. So that was like the main difference for me. At Rutgers, it got to a point where you kind of earn the trust and put some cool shit together that you like and send it out, and they post it.
for sure.
But the Hawks, it's more like calculated, and everything's being seen by so many more people.
Hmm.
Like things can change a lot by the time you've gotten edits and critiques and all that.
Hmm.
So big time
Yeah,
difference.
I was curious on like the workflow in between in your team. With myself, when I like with the experience of workflow, I think I mentioned this a couple times, but when I worked with my job prior to the job that I'm at now, the feedback loop was more than like involved more people than I've ever experienced before.
Yeah,
Granted, my only experience since it was my first this was like my first job out of college, like my first big boy job out of college. So like my feedback loop was mainly between me and the client I was working with. So it was like it was a two-way street, right? I'd give one thing, they'd
yeah,
give it back, and then we kind of go from there. But then moving into like the career aspect of it, when I got that big time job, or my first job, it was like it involved like five or six other people. So like
yeah.
experiencing that and being able to like it sucked. I'll be honest, it sucks to have that many people in a feedback loop. I don't know what you think, but like it allowed me to learn how to explain things better. Like what's the
True.
what like in your setting right now? What's the feedback loop like? Like how many people does it include? Like, does it have to go all the way up, or does it only go to like one person and then comes back to you and that type of stuff?
It's rarely one person. It's pretty involved, honestly. Like it'll go project will get assigned from like a department, right? So you got marketing, you got like corporate partnerships, that kind of stuff, or
Right.
social. Um, so you're gonna have to run everything by them, but then like I'll bring it back to the table with like our head designers, whether it's like Dino or Cliff. I know a lot of people know them, or like our creative director Shirley. So they'll give me feedback. I kind of like take all that, fix it up. Then I go to social or whatever. They bring me feedback again, and then sometimes it's like bigger initiatives. Everyone's got to see it. There's got to be meetings. So
Right.
yeah, it's pretty involved, and it's like part of it is difficult at times, but then it's like you're kind of making something that's important. It gives you that feeling too,
Mm-hmm.
so it's less trivial in a sense where you're actually like motivated to impress people and kind of collaborate like seamlessly, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a lot of it, I think is like I feel like it's super dependent on the project. Like
Yeah,
obviously, if you're like developing like a game day thing, you don't need everyone to look at it, right? It's like maybe it involves a sponsor. You make sure you have the logo on there. That's like readable, and then it's kind of like do your thing, to where then if you're developing something that's like for an overarching campaign or, you know, whatever it may be, or something connecting, maybe it's connecting to a sponsor, but then also, you know, connecting to different things or having to deal with different things, feedback can change project to project, I'm feeling. So like,
yeah, 100%.
Like workflow is such an interesting thing to me, with especially, you know, between like your experience with freelance and your experience in a full-time gig. It's like, you know, there's completely different types of workflow there, and being able to, I think it's good that like you experience both, because, you know, your communication level gets, or your ability to communicate becomes so much more ironed out, becomes it's like, and you're a lot more confident in yourself when it comes to, you know, having to explain things, you know, 3 or 4 times, or, you know, whether it's in like a meeting setting and you're talking to like 6 different people and you have to make sure they all understand what you're saying, you know, being able to know what you're talking about. You know, I feel like that's a the explaining thing, and like the communication thing, like right out of college, was like the worst thing for me. It was so hard, because I was like, I don't know what you think about this, but like I was like, I know like what I'm like trying to communicate, but I couldn't like dumb it down into like layman's terms and make sure it's like as easily communicable as possible. I would be using like stupid design terms like that only I and like my friends would know, you know, and like, or the other designers that I would talk to, you know, only we would know those things, you know. But go for it.
I'll give you a quick example. Like when I went up to Rutgers, it was my first time like really taking a meeting with a coach. I'm not gonna like drop names or anything.
Right.
Everyone up there, like I'm super cordial with everyone. Like my time there was great, but the first coach I met with like was one that hadn't had a lot of graphics made for their program. Like they were a smaller program. And he pretty much just told me like, yeah, we don't think we need you. Like we want to do our own stuff. Like that was my first meeting with a college coach. I was like, oh, this is gonna go real smooth. Like that's a great welcome to the college design world. But eventually like it worked out. But I do think you're right. Like communicating is the toughest part, because you're gonna talk to people that don't really know design talk. And I've made that mistake a ton of times. Like, yeah, look at this blending mode I use. And they're like, I don't know what the hell a blending mode is. Like
I don't give a shit.
You know, that does it pop, or, you know, like all the generalized terms are what you're going to hear back. But like nowadays, like freelancing with so many different people, that's probably the biggest asset you can have. Is like being able to talk to everyone in their own language, whether it's like a pro athlete, you're talking super casual, you know, or texting back sometimes, you're not even really like taking meetings.
Right.
Or for like a big clothing company or something, like you got to put on your professional hat and, you know, take notes, and all of it works for those individual outlets of different genres of design. But I definitely didn't, no one really knows that kind of stuff when they're starting out.
Right. Yeah, it's more of like an experience thing. Like you can be in like workshops in school or wherever you learned how to like communicate. You can be in like workshops or whatever your system is. And that repetition is good. Don't get me wrong. The repetition within that scene and within that, you know, that role play or however you want to practice it, it's good, but it's never like the real thing. You know, especially if you're dealing with like within sports and you're working with like those professional athletes, like normal person's gonna be like, holy shit, I'm working with this guy. He's a whatever for the, you know, for the Miami Heat. He's a fucking NBA athlete, you know, like there's gonna be a little bit of nervousness there, and, you know, experiencing that and being able to know who you're talking to and, you know, get those reps in, you know, in that scenario is so good, because then, like I said, you get more confident in what you're talking about. You're like able to communicate, you know, you're able to know your audience, so you're able to communicate in one way to different people, in another way to different people, but they all understand the same thing. They're all on the same page, you know.
Right.
That's just something that, oh my goodness, like it's so important. And getting thrown to the wolves, honestly, that's the best case scenario. Like it's like what's the saying about like It's the swimming saying when it comes to that. Like throw 'em. Oh my God, why can I not remember this? It's like throw them in the deep end and see if they can swim.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what
something
it
like
is.
that.
Like I don't know how you learn or how you like kind of went over that, but like that's how I learned. So it's like you just throw it all at me. Like when I started this new job, like I got hired in the height of like event season. So it was like all these different
Mm,
systems are flying around. So many different people are like dealing with X, Y, and Z, and it's like they're like, oh, we're so sorry we brought you in at this time. That's just how it worked. And I was like, don't worry. Like you just got to throw me in there. Let me dig around. Let me feel it out. Let me just experience it all at once. And that's just, how I learn best. And yeah,
right.
I don't know. Like it obviously depends on the person. How do you learn best? Do you like getting thrown in, or is it just kind of like a gradual type of thing for you?
Um, I don't know. I think getting thrown in is more beneficial for sure. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't necessarily like say people like that because you don't really enjoy that. Like you're pulling your hair out, you stress as hell. Like
Mm-hmm.
no one really likes it, but I think like 5 years later, you're gonna be looking back like, yeah, that's why I'm where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's like, yeah, they really gradually brought me along, and that's how I had such a drastic change in my work. Like it just doesn't work that way. If you're gonna be successful, you got to jump in
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of go
Yeah, like
pedal to the metal.
the proactiveness when it comes to that. Like, yes, I like how you mentioned like you're getting stressed out, but
Yeah,
then I feel like I've learned more about myself and how I deal with those situations, just
yeah,
being in there and just getting stressed to the max. And then like because I mean, this is probably everyone, but like when I'm off of work, I'm still thinking about work and it's really bad. But then I'm able
yeah,
to
dude.
like recollect on like what was making me frustrated, how I can go into like the next day and be able to, get rid of that frustration or like have the frustration but manage the frustration.
Yeah.
It's
I'm like never off of work, to be honest. Like I freelance at night. Being off of work is like having like a 4 hour window where I can just like go work out or
right.
and I got a 1 year old, which
Really?
is a huge blessing, one and a half almost, but
Congrats.
also like thanks, but also like you got to treat that like work too, like trying to be the best dad I can be, and
Mhm.
um, so yeah, it's never never off of work mentally,
I,
always going to.
what is that work-life balance like? Cuz a 1-year-old's a lot of work.
It's crazy. I mean, my wife does all the heavy lifting and stuff, but I am working from home like all day, and when I work at night too. So like I'm in the room next to her, so I'm very much present.
Mhm.
It's a lot of shit to think about, especially like you're going from a 2 hour Zoom meeting to like a project to like changing a diaper to it's chaotic. So that's another thing, like learning to multitask. It's only helped with that aspect of life too. So I love it. It's not always easy. It's pretty loud, but it's worth it.
Does it help you when like you get into a bad scenario at work? You just like you look over and it's like this is why I'm doing it?
No, I don't really bring that into it. Maybe eventually I will. I'll just be like, yeah, I'm making a diaper run real quick or
Well,
something.
no, like
But
like not like visually, like not like you're on a call and you're like, "Hey, this is my kid." No, like it's like let's say like you're having a bad day on like a Monday and then, you go change your is it a daughter or a son? Daughter.
daughter, yeah.
You go change your daughter's diaper and you're like, "You know what? You're why I'm doing this. Like this frustration is coming from a scenario because I'm putting in the work to make sure you have a good life." Like that type of thing. Like does that ever come across your mind?
Not really, man. No,
you're
it's
just
just
you're
like
just
trying to
frustrated and
put out
gotta go.
fires.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So like on to the next thing,
Just gotta go change a damn diaper.
Yeah, compartmentalization is key, dude. Like I don't know how I'm doing it, but I can just turn off like unrelated stress somehow. It's like I'm teaching myself some, I don't know, master class on that
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, that's good that you mentioned that too, because yeah, that's something that I've been fortunate to learn as well. It's like Like it literally is like when I close my office door and go out of the day, like, yes, maybe I'm thinking about it, but whatever pissed me off or whatever, it's like, it's done. It happened. I'm done with it now, on to the next type of thing. And
Yeah.
I can only imagine how it is, like, involving a kid into that scenario. My wife and I have been married since last July, so going on a year here, but thinking about kids hasn't even been, we talk about it every once in a while, but thinking about kids and wanting to have kids is probably something that's going to be a couple years down the road yet. So it's like, I can only imagine having a kid in that scenario. And oh my goodness, kudos to you guys. Yeah. That's awesome, though.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
How old are you? I don't think I've asked that.
I'm 59. No.
Yeah, okay.
I'm 31. Yeah,
31.
I'm 31.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have your wife and you been married?
2 years.
2 years.
But been together for 4. So.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, awesome. That's cool. I don't know why I didn't ask that. I should have asked that before.
You're good. I try to keep like my personal life off of Twitter, and that's kind of where I know you from mainly.
Yeah,
but
that's
like
true.
Instagram, I kind of like let it fly, whatever.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, Twitter can be a place, man. Did you see that? Like, are you on that new, like, Threads thing?
Yeah, kind of sadly. It's kind of cool, but I'm like, the last thing I need is another social media platform. I'm trying to, like, stress this work-life balance.
We almost like have to have it. That's like the bad thing.
Yeah, I get all my clients off of Twitter, so it's like I'd be stupid not to, post my stuff on Threads.
Right. Yeah, I don't even, like, I haven't even done any research, but I saw that, like, they had like 70 million new users or whatever in, like, the first, like, 2 or 3 days it's been live.
Yeah.
Is it just like Twitter or what?
It's like the exact same thing.
But it's like under Facebook.
Yeah, I guess because Instagram's owned by Facebook too, right?
Right.
So it's either going to get sued by Twitter and die, or it's going to take over, I think, because the people that join it can kind of like fuse their Instagram followers. So you can instantly have like 500 followers, if they follow you back. Whereas Twitter is a totally different entity.
Right.
So you got to, like, slow build that following. I think most people are impatient. So they're probably just going to go with Threads if I had to guess, which means I got to post my shit on one more thing. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I think, like, well, Instagram, at least for me, like, my whole audience is completely, and like my whole MO on different socials are completely different. Like you were saying,
mine's
like,
all music. Yeah.
You post, like, your personal life and stuff on Instagram, but you don't do it on Twitter. So it's like, you may be able to fuse the followers to your Threads account, but is it the same audience, that you use to post things?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
It's cool. Your Instagram audience is going to be able to see some of your cool design work, so that's a positive.
True. I don't know if they'll be that interested, though. They're,
whatever. They're going to see it. They're going to see it whether they like it or not, right?
Yeah, they're gonna see it all right.
So I've been thinking recently, and it's good that we mentioned freelance a couple times here, but I've been thinking recently about my whole, the whole aspect around, like, personal work. Do you do any personal work, like, just for fun, or is it all, like, work and then freelance?
No, dude, that is the main thing for me is personal work. And lately, like the last 2 months, I've been taking on more freelance, so I haven't had the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if I had any advice to young kids trying to get into the industry, like, you have to do the personal work to find out, like, what you prefer, what kind of designer you are. Mm-hmm. So I try to do 3 or 4 pieces a week where it's just like random,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I don't do a whole lot of current NBA guys because I work for the Hawks. So it's kind of like a conflict of interest thing, but
right.
I'll do like throwback NBA guys. I'll do lacrosse stuff. I'll do tennis stuff, like shoe stuff. I think that is like 100% the way you take the stress out of your profession too, because that reminds you, like, I'm doing this because I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can still, like, get to the point where you're working a lot, but you still want to make something for yourself, then that means that you're still passionate about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I never want to lose that. That's key for me, 100%. I'm glad you brought that up too.
Yeah, because I was like, I was being like I was finding myself in the situation where, and it happened last week when I was in El Paso. Like we were working, like we worked a softball game and then we worked a football camp. Like I work for a company that like manages clients and helps them produce their events, and so I help with like signage. So I kind of be responsible for putting it up, taking it down, being there if anything goes wrong, type of thing. So
Yeah.
like the softball game, like we worked like it was a long day. I mean, obviously people know about long days and, back-to-back long days, and it was a long week, to be honest. Like I wanted to go home after Wednesday and we got there on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
So it was a long week, and then I was like I was thinking, I was looking at my portfolio, and it's like my personal projects on my portfolio are like super outdated now. So it's like I was thinking, I was like, why do I not have the motivation to do personal work anymore? Like, is it cause like I don't love this, or is it just simply down to like spending time with my wife and dog is more important than sitting at my computer producing, something that, yes, I may enjoy it, but I'm also going to enjoy spending the time outside of my office, maybe a little bit more. So it was like, I kind of sat back and I was like wondering if it was like me not, like if it wasn't like for the love of the game type of thing, or if it like, if I just genuinely, so I had to do some like recollection, and I asked on Twitter, and I messaged a couple people about it, and it was, because I've never experienced this before. Like it was more along the lines of like I've always had the want to produce something, whether it was like me I ended up posting on Twitter, or if it was just me just playing around,
Yeah.
I've always like not shied away from that, and now it's like, I'm starting to just throw that whole aspect of things just out.
I mean, responsibilities can take up so much stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so much of your time. And like it's different for your job if you're traveling, like being somewhere physically present for your work is totally different. Like for me, I don't have to go anywhere for my job.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as intrusive to my personal time, you know. Like granted, if I'm making something for myself, it's always like late at night, but I'm not like exhausted from being on a plane or like, commuting an hour or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think regardless, like people go through, streaks of being too busy. There's nothing wrong with that, but it could always come back like that urge to create.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just give it time. I mean, sounds like you got a lot of wheels in motion, so I wouldn't worry about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it was like I respected the fact that like, yeah, maybe I'm just busy, and that's just the scenario,
Yeah,
and I don't want to take my free time and dedicate it towards sitting at a desk longer than I have to.
yeah,
And like I've recently gotten on this like self recollection tour, and it was like just looking at like how I'm eating, how I'm
yeah,
like my activity level, and my social interactions. Like, am I hanging out with friends, or am I just sitting, or am my wife and I
yeah,
just sitting in the living room just watching Netflix? Like, are
yeah.
we getting out type of scenario? So it's like this happened like all in this like last week. So I don't know, maybe this last week was like my enlightenment period or something. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean that's true.
yeah, just like thinking about a lot of different things, and putting it into perspective a little bit more.
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
it it made me like step back and appreciate the things that I have, and appreciate the things I'm able to do, but then two, also use the word compartmentalize already, like compartmentalize like the things I'm responsible for and the things that I'm supposed to do, and be able to organize those different things, and the things that I want to do too. Like we all have aspirations for where we want to be in X, Y, and Z.
right.
So it's like figuring out what things are like worth it to be doing, and what things I can like X out to be
Yeah,
able to focus more. Those type of things.
that's true. Yeah, I mean I had to just drop some, or not drop, but kind of take a step back from some of my freelance clients, just because my mental health was kind of like straggling a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to prioritize that. One thing I'll never like sacrifice is going to the gym, like exercise, health. Like I'm not just gonna sit behind a computer for content, when I haven't worked out. Like I'm always going to prioritize the body first,
Right.
the mind, and then, the passions after that. But
Hmm.
I feel where you're coming from.
Yeah, it was like a big, like, I don't know if I want to call it a wake up call because it's not even near like a midlife crisis type of wake up call thing. So I don't want to be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is like what changed me type of scenario. No, it wasn't that. It was just, I took time to think a little bit more about it, and I attributed some brain power towards organization and put some thought towards it and everything. So yeah, I thought it. I mean, I don't know if people go through that consistently, but I think it's good to think a little bit extra hard about what you're doing and what your goals are.
Yeah.
Going farther down and in not only your career but in life, and um, being able to make adjustments. Life is about adapting, and at least the design career. I mean, we both can talk about that. The design career is about adapting all the time. So it's like, it's not like we don't
Definitely.
do that. And so yeah, wow, this podcast kind of took a shift, but yeah, I, that's what has been on my mind lately. And I don't even know where we started, but I kept rambling about, everything like this, but yeah, I thought it was good. It was beneficial for me, and it was, it was good to kind of do and be able to, yeah, just kind of see everything for face value and take it in, and it was good. I liked
Nice.
it a lot.
Glad. I'm glad, man. I'm gonna turn this fan on because I'm hot in this room.
Yeah, it's I usually don't have the well, the people viewing the podcast can't see this, but you can see this door back here. I usually have it open, if I have
Yeah.
my window next to me open, but I'd have it closed because my dog got neutered recently, and he's been getting a little bit more attached to us because we are like
Okay.
limiting his activity, so he's always by us. And right now he's downstairs in his little like area, um, and I didn't really want him to hear me as much, so I had to close
Yeah.
the door. But usually we have the air on, but it's only, it's not even 80 degrees, so I have this open. But with that door open, there's like airflow all the time, and once they close it,
Yeah.
it cuts that off, and you're just in a hot box. So
Yeah. I feel you. That's what I was feeling like.
I can only imagine what it's like. You've got 95 degrees down there.
It's unreal. It's like walking in liquid, dude. It's it's crazy. I think last week was the second hottest ever July day recorded in Florida or
Holy
some
crap.
shit like that. Yeah, so it's
That's kind
especially
of
when you
intense.
got a toddler. Yeah, when you got a toddler, you can't bring them out in there in the sun.
Oh
So,
yeah.
like, what do you do? A little bit of cabin fever without the snow.
Yeah, honestly, like I would trade living down in Florida for living up here in the winter for sure.
Yeah, I
There's
haven't decided yet. I
there's
haven't decided.
no way I would take, like, if I had the opportunity and like life was all golden and awesome and I could move wherever, and yeah, I would definitely move down south before
Yeah,
experiencing another Wisconsin winter for sure.
yeah. My body doesn't do cold very well. I got screws all over, and
You can feel when a
yeah,
thunderstorm's coming or some shit.
yeah, man. I do. I do.
The air
That
pressure.
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it actually a thing, or is that like a joke?
it is. Yeah, it is. 100%.
That's so funny to me. That's so
Yeah,
funny. My grandpa is like half bionic because he's like got like all these freaking uh like all his joints and shit replaced. So
yeah.
he's the same way. But he's always like said it, and I'm like, "No, you're full of shit." And I've never asked him if it's actually a thing. Like
No,
he
man,
says
it
like
is.
his knee swells up when like it's going to rain. And I'm just like,
Yeah, I'm five surgeries deep now, and I feel it whenever it rains, man. I'm achy, and I don't have the spry lift at
seriously.
all. Yeah.
That's so weird, man. The human body is something else.
Hmm.
Like that's like, yeah, whatever. Is it just like inflammation or what?
Yeah, I think it's just overall like stiffness and just I don't know what's going on in the body, but it could just be inflammation. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
For sure. So Yeah, I guess let's kind of segue back. We've gone off track a little bit. What are your? I'll ask you this question because I'm very intrigued. What are your like career aspirations? Where do you see yourself in the future?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself going?
I mean, there's a
And I
couple
guess
different ways to look.
and I guess you can add on why, because that's always a good adding the
Yeah.
reasoning behind it. It's a good one too.
I'm kind of still figuring it out. I think everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
There's different ways to look at it. For me, I'm like, part of me wants to just work with as many brands as I can and touch different brands
Mm-hmm.
and, see how I can adapt and create with different companies' toolkits and stuff. But and I also like the stability of, like being with the Hawks and knowing what I'm getting into every day. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out which is more beneficial to my lifestyle. Or do I just keep doing both? And I don't know. I like it right now, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll just keep doing that. Try to keep consistency while simultaneously like feeling out other industries and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Do you see yourself going full time freelance?
Um, Not in the near future,
No.
but I mean, when I'm older, yeah, I could see that for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
What about staying in sports?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the love
Yeah,
love
it
love
would
for
be
sports
really
is too
hard.
strong.
Yeah. It'd be really hard for me, like, well, granted, most of my freelance is sports too.
Right.
Um, it'd be hard for me to leave the industry just for more money. And granted, like, I got to do what's best for my family, like
Right.
if there's offers, I gotta field those and stuff. But it'd be hard to go into like very corporate stuff where, you know, I'm working for a food brand or something,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not be designing sports just because right now it's like a cool time where I can create what I'm passionate about. Like I can make a Trey Young graphic when I watched the game last night,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I'm able to digest like this is what I played growing up. Now I'm watching it and I'm creating for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that holds like weight big time in my career. Obviously, you got to do what's best for you and your family, but it'd be hard for me to leave that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
For
for
sure.
sure.
I respect that. I respect that immensely. Cause like a lot of like, yes, like where am I? It's so I feel like in this industry it's so hard to plan. 5 years
Yeah,
out, 10 years out,
it is.
20 years out. It's so hard to plan because I don't want to say like the what's the word like the amount of time people are in one spot is compared to other industries is super different. It's like it's not super traditional within sports unless you're in like that like unless you're in like a management role
Yeah.
or I guess within creative within sports. Obviously if you're
Hmm.
like VP of ticket sales or whatever, you're going to stay at probably majority of the time you're going to stay at the place for like 5-10 years. But
Yeah.
like within creative, like since like your creative experience is so dependent on the staff that you're working around, if a creative person sees an opportunity to move to a team, especially if you're working remote like you are, if you like
Yeah.
since there's not like a pick up and move scenario, if you see an opportunity to move to a team with a more influential, or whether you want to say influential but more like well versed creative
Reach. Yeah.
staff, and
Yeah,
reach
I
is,
got
is
that.
another
Yeah.
thing. It's like like there's a little bit more motivation to want to move because I feel like us as creatives and us as designers always are wanting to do more and do different and
Yeah.
um do a plethora of things within the
Hmm.
visual space. And if you see an opportunity and you're like, hey, this could help me build more skills, this could help me build my portfolio, so in the future, in the long run, I can hit my my goal of being freelance full time, or my goal
Yeah.
of being a creative director, so I can have those different skill sets. I don't know what it is like what you're seeing from the outside looking in when it comes to the creative scene, but like I see people moving all the time. I mean, I was at my minor league job for a year and a half, and now I'm with this. The company's called Capture Sports and Entertainment. I've been with them since April. So like in my young career, I've already moved. I've already moved jobs, and I don't think like that's looked down upon now.
No, not at all, man.
As much as it used to,
Yeah, I think in the digital space, like where you can create from anywhere, I just think there is very commendable qualities to being with one place for a long time. You know the ins and outs of that company. Like you gain all that respect. People look to you, but there's also like a big reward in saying I've worked successfully with 12 different companies and like no complaints yet. Like
right.
So it's adaptability. It's like you said, keeping it interesting. You're not, gridlocked to one thing for such a long time. But they both have, they both provide good options for everyone. But yeah, I see most people like 3 years maybe, then they're bouncing, they're going to their next stepping stone, unless you're at like the destination where you want to be for a while, then you can kind of stay put, stand pat. But yeah, you're right. It's not looked down upon at all.
I feel like the access to moving up in the creative industry is a little bit easier to grasp.
Yeah.
Like if you started like a junior level and moved to a senior level, like that from point A to point B, that time in between, since the stuff that we develop is like, you can see it, you can see the progress. Like it's all visual, like you can see like you moving your skills higher and everything like that. And obviously going from a junior to a senior level, like the communication aspect, like we talked about before, has to be, a little bit more ironed out. But, the improvement in skill is so easy to see in our profession. So it's like being able to move up that ladder just goes a little bit quicker. And also for the people that are like senior level designers, they can move to that creative director or project manager or whatever that, VP of brand or whatever that, next level thing is for them too. Like moving up that ladder is just, I just feel like it goes quicker than like if you're like what's like a cliche corporate job, like a VP of business development. Like I feel like there's just so much more criteria you have to hit for you to move up. And usually, which is a downside to the creative side, usually with that move up in the corporate world, there's a very high pay increase. So for them to justify moving you up and paying you more, there has to be a bunch more check boxes hit, which, comes with it. But, I feel like there's it's just a lot longer of a process within the corporate world rather than within the creative world to warrant a promotion,
And I'll be honest with you, like me, myself, I don't really put a lot of weight on like labels, like junior, senior, whatever. Cause like with our profession, you can just look at someone's portfolio and tell how good they are.
Right.
Whereas if you're like, think of it in sports, like your assistant coach, your head coach, the head coach has been through a lot more stuff than the assistant coach. That's why he's the head coach,
Right.
But here you can click on someone's work and you're seeing their talent level like instantly if you're a seasoned designer. So yeah, like the pay difference is a big factor in that. But as far as like titles and stuff, that's never really been something that I've like sought for or really like weighed at all. I don't know if I've ever called myself anything like other than just designer, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like my personal opinion when it comes to a creative, title, if you get that like creative director or like project manager title, that means like more on the concept ideation and project ideation and like the whole back end of things rather than just producing the visual.
Yeah, you got to be able to manage a team and stuff like that.
Right.
So
There's more of like a business side to that position than just
for sure.
producing, you know?
Yeah.
That's why, like, with talking with Xavier, or Xavier, I've said his name, the Xavier Murillo, the guy I've had on recently. By the way, for the audience, if you haven't listened to those 2 parts, go listen to those 2 parts. Awesome conversation. But talking with him, because he's creative director for MLB, and being able to
Yeah.
talk with him and ask him about like their creative process, and no pun intended, but ask them about their creative process and like how he directs his team and how he, works with his team. It was so cool and so fascinating to listen to that, because of the experience that he's gone through. His ability to communicate, his ability to say this is what, this, that, and the other thing, and also be open to take feedback. That position
Yeah.
is much more than just producing. It's,
Definitely.
like you said, it's managing. It's like you're literally managing a whole team, and you also have to come up with the concepts. You have to come up with why these concepts are the situation. And
Yeah.
also, you're the point man for the higher ups when they come to you for a campaign, or if you have to work with the corporate people, corporate sponsorships people, when it comes to developing something for like Pepsi or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's so much more to manage in that position, to where if it's like junior, senior designer, graphic designer,
Right.
or whatever the title may be, or what, like director of creative or what. I always love that one, seeing
Yeah.
that one in like college athletics. It's like
College. Yeah.
associate director of creative. Like, okay, come on,
Yeah.
you're doing what, it's just a little sprinkle of dust on there.
Yeah. Sure, it looks nice on a plate.
Right. Yeah, it looks nice when you present your resume to your next job, but
Yeah. It's a
yeah,
little sexier.
yeah, I agree with you, like to an extent. I feel like once you
Yeah,
hit like those creative director and like managerial
for sure.
roles within a creative system, it's like now your shit, like
Yeah,
talent.
you've been through it.
Yeah, graphical talent and being able to produce like a visual, you can only rely on that so much when you get to those positions.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, I mean, it's been awesome having you on. It's been awesome talking with you and meeting you. And I mentioned this before we started recording, but people recommending you and having you on and having this conversation. And I mean, I've been following you on Twitter for some time now, so seeing your work
Thanks,
over
man.
and over and
Same.
over again, it's really nice to see. And you produce awesome work. Your whole team produces awesome work for Atlanta over there. So
Appreciate it. Yeah, we got some good designers, great designers.
yeah, kudos to you. You guys always kill it. And I mean, it's Atlanta, man. You guys got so much to work with, and it's so the
Yeah.
color palette, the red and yellow is just so nice all the time. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. So yeah, I thank you to the bottom of my heart for coming out today, sharing your experiences and everything, and talking about everything you've gone through, and sharing your opinions on some things. It's really awesome to hear, and I hope that the audience got some awesome information out of it today. So yeah, again, thank you, man. Before the
Thank
audience,
you.
go down below, check out everything that has to be related with Flynn. His socials will be down there, his portfolio will be down there. So go connect with the man. And thank you for coming out to episode 83 today. As always, make sure you tell someone that you love them, and we will see you next time. Take it easy.